Abundance Show. Welcome back to the show, where we explore stories of impact, innovation, and inspiration, highlighting individuals who are truly shaping a better world. Today, we have truly remarkable guest joining us to social justice, environmental advocacy, and international development is making waves. Please give a warm abundance show welcome to Fatima Madani. Fatima has just graduated with a first class honor degree in international development and politics from the University of Birmingham. And she's about to embark on her master's degree at London School of Economics, studying international development and humanitarian emergencies. Her recent dissertation, Unpacking Neocolonialism, a comprehensive analysis of mechanisms in Chinese and Western aid to Africa, a case study of Ethiopia, speaks volumes about her critical thinking and commitment to understanding complex global issues. Beyond her academic achievements, Fatma is a force for change on the ground. She's been community ambassador and equality, diversity, and inclusive ambassador at University of Birmingham, a project officer with Generation Climate Europe, and has even spoken on Sky News about humanitarian issues. Her passion for youth led change, migration equity, and environmental leadership is truly inspiring. Fatima, welcome to the show. How are you doing,
Hi,
lady?
Zafar. Thank you so much for the amazing introduction. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. I really don't have words to thank you for gracing my show. Thank you for taking your time. Despite the fact you've been busy a lot since you've got a short time here, and then you're gonna go to London School of
Yeah.
Economics shortly. So, okay, to start with, I mean, just get us a life journey. Where did you start, and where are you heading to?
So I did the IB program, which is the International Baccalaureate program, and I did some of that in Pakistan, and I did some of that in Sudan, which is a country in Africa, because a lot of people don't know what Sudan is. So from there, I applied to the UK because I knew I wanted to go and study there. And I didn't, I mean, I got into my first choice, the university that I really wanted to go to. I did get into that, which was King's College London. But I guess God just had different plans for me. And I ended up at the University of Birmingham. And I feel like to give a bit of an introduction about what international development is, because a lot of people don't know what international development is and sometimes think it's the same thing as international relations, but they're two very, very different things. So, international development is more on working on the ground with NGOs and bringing stakeholders like communities in a country, or like international organizations together, civilians together, and it's just really about bridging the gap between, for instance, like the undeveloped world and the developed world, or like trying to make the world a better place. So, the UN SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, like working towards betterment of a region in a specific um, with a specific project or anything in mind is what development actually is. And the UN is one of the most widely known examples that anyone thinks of when they first think of development. So this is why I wanted to do it, because I'm from Pakistan and I've lived most of my life in Sudan, which is also a third world country. And I was very inspired to make the world a better place. And I feel like a lot of people are, but they just don't know where to start. So this is why I studied international development and politics. And from my time at university, I knew I wanted to make a difference. So I took on roles that would help me get the qualities that I needed to actually get a proper job in the development world. That's why I worked as ambassadors to learn how to care for people, to learn how to talk to people, to learn how to talk to people in different environments. And I just applied to everything I could because I thought that maybe I wanted to just work in development, but I realized that I really like migration as well, and I really like sustainability as well. So it's just about applying to anything that comes in your way. And with your LinkedIn, as you probably know, Zafar, it's very important to showcase everything you do. And it's very important to show people that, yes, I am really interested in this. So, like when I spoke on Sky News, which is a very big news channel internationally, I basically wrote my journey about escaping the Sudanese war because I escaped war. And that showed Sky News and other people in the world that, like, yes, I'm so passionate about raising awareness about humanitarian issues. And I think that's what most students, sometimes like when I post on LinkedIn, I'm like, I don't want to show off, or I don't want to sound like, I think I'm better than everyone else, because I'm honestly not. But that's just like how you kind of have to market yourself, and market yourself in the best way possible, I would say. So that's kind of my journey. And as Zafar has said, I graduated university I think it's been a month now. So yes, I'm just thinking about my master's now. So that's basically what I've just been doing for the past 3 years now.
Really amazing. Thank you so much for the insightful reply to what I asked. Your recent dissertation tackled
It's a very hard
neocolonialism
word, yeah.
in aid to Africa. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
neocolonialism in aid to Africa. This is a powerful and often topic. Could you start explaining what neocolonialism means and in the context of international development, and what drew you to explore this for your research?
I think one thing that's very important is for us as a world to recognize that the world is not the same as it was maybe 20 or 30 years from today. And a lot of the books that we read, because it takes a very long time to write a book, a lot of them are very old with knowledge. And I think, although not to say they're not insightful, like books are great, but sometimes I guess it's very hard to get books that are in date and talking about like what's happening right now. So I think it's important to look at emerging leaders in the world. So we see China, we see Russia, we see Brazil, we see India, that are doing economically so well, and other factors in development as well, like human if you some of them, their human rights indexes are going so up as well. So I think it's very important to realize, like, sometimes in life you need to be that research, because sometimes there isn't enough research about a certain thing. And so when I was exploring my dissertation topic, I realized, like, in literature we talk so much about the pros and the cons of western aid, like America, UK aid, like so British aid, European aid, and we talk about the pros and cons. But when I tried to research about Chinese aid, I realized that there weren't a lot of things available. First of all, not a lot of articles and journals written on it. And I think another thing was, there was a lot of negative, just negative talk about Chinese aid, and we rarely ever, I mean, the research that I did, I really ever saw anything positive. And so I was like, I really want to explore this topic. And talking about neocolonialism, so neocolonialism basically means colonization, so colonialism, but for today's world. So yes, colonization happened in the past, for instance, like how the British conquered India, that's colonization. But then you see colonization that's in the world today, but in a whole different format. So back in the day, it was like, British people came to India, conquered India. That's what colonization was back in the day. But in today's world, we often see through aid, people are developed countries are colonizing developing countries by making them so dependent on aid that they can't do anything in their country without getting aid from these countries. And I think it's very sad to see how dependent some countries are on aid, and how the elites in the country especially, they are very dependent on the aid, because obviously they also get a paycheck of what the country gets. And I think it's very important to see how different stakeholders interact with aid. So that's why I really wanted to explore China, Western aid, and neocolonialism, because it's so impactful and insightful, even for today's world, when a lot of us think like there is no colonization, but there is still colonization happening. So I think it's very important like that. And so basically, just in very few words, what my dissertation was about was I looked at specifically Ethiopia, because I think Ethiopia is China's second biggest aid provider. Oh, well, China's second. China is Ethiopia's second biggest aid provider. Yeah, and I think China gives the most aid to Albania. Yeah, and so I wasn't very interested in Albania, just because I've lived closer to Ethiopia, Sudan, in my whole life. So that's why I was very interested in kind of researching about Ethiopia more than I was about Albania. So I think that's really why I wanted to do it. And just my dissertation, in a few words, was looking at how um, Western aid to Ethiopia differs from Chinese aid to Ethiopia. And I looked at how it was neocolonial. I looked at how much how which aid really benefited the people on the ground, which is the Ethiopian people, and which aid, because aid has conditions. So aid, a lot of people think that like developed countries just give developing countries money and just call it a day, but it's not really like that. And every single penny that you take from someone else, like it is in the real world, like if I take a loan from someone, no one's just going to give me a loan. Like there are conditions attached, and sometimes the conditions attached are so evil that like these countries are not able to come up or rise up themselves, because the conditions attached really pull them to the ground. So I think that's really why I wanted to look at which form of aid, because Chinese aid is really looked down upon nowadays, because it says there's no conditions attached, but there obviously, with every loan, every money, even every grant that is given, there are conditions attached. So it's very um, powerful to see that despite both aid conditions and aid providers being so different, that so what, you can say their aid is somewhat the same. And that's what my research kind of drew attention to.
Thank you so much for the detailed reply. Fatma, you've been incredibly active as community ambassador and EDI,
Yeah.
Equality, Diversity, and Inclusivity Ambassador. What were some of the challenges you aimed to address in these roles? And what impact do you feel you've had in fostering more inclusive communities?
I think with both of my roles, what I really wanted to do was make the university. So these are both university roles, to make the university a more safer place for everyone. So I was an international student in the UK, and despite like there being so many international students, it's still very hard to adjust to a whole new country with a whole set of new norms, and you don't know anyone there. So I wanted to make sure that the community that we build at the university, and the especially the events that we hold, and because a lot of the events in the Western world are just drinking, drinking, drinking. So it was very, because I'm a Muslim, and there are a lot of people that are not Muslim but just don't want to drink or be involved in that. It's very important to create a space for them to also be able to live. So I think that was my main kind of goal with both of my roles, to make sure that Muslim voices are heard, first of all, and to make the university a more inclusive space for people that don't drink, and international students as well. So that was my goal. And some of the challenges, I would say, was just getting our message across, because as we know, a lot of Muslims have migrated to the UK, and then sometimes people think that like um like Muslim voices, because they've been in the UK for such a long time. um what I'm saying does not make sense because no one else has ever raised their voice to actually advocate for like our rights in a space for us. So I think that was one of the hardest challenges. And also with events and things we hold, for example, like coffee and arts, or like coffee and sustainability, one of the most important thing is like the funding. So sometimes we wouldn't get as much funding as sometimes other events that were showcased, for instance. So I think that was one of the challenges. Another challenge was I wanted to make sure that we are creating awareness about the world around us. So it shouldn't just be like, oh, it's a coffee event, so we all drink coffee. So I wanted to do it about like perhaps like sustainability, or climate crisis, or perhaps making cards for or kids in a hospital, and just things like that, where yes, we are having fun or we're enjoying, but we also want to make sure that we're helping and understanding the challenges in the world around us, because that's what living and being a human really means, right? Especially with what's going on in some parts of the world, atrocities that are taking place. I think it's very important to realize that we can perhaps help these people that are in need, and how we can help them and how we can go about all of this. So I think one other challenge was to get people to come to these events, because a lot of people were like, we've already studied in class. We don't want to lecture after class, and we don't want to come to this event because it's so informative and we just want to have fun. So I think it was very important to kind of bridge the gap between, yes, learning and also having fun. It doesn't have to be like two parallel things, like they can simultaneously come together. And I think that was something that I achieved by the end of both of my roles, that like, yes, we can learn about the world and learn new things and still have fun and still make friends. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Fatma, for the detailed reply. Really impressive. Okay, you've had a diverse range of experiences, from volunteering with Generation Climate Europe to representing the University of Birmingham at Gotham House climate simulation. How do these varied experiences connect with connect and inform your overall vision for environmental action and climate justice?
So, just to kind of give a bit of information about the organizations I worked with. So, one of the organizations I worked with is called Generation Climate Europe, which is the largest youth organization in Europe. And I am their education and skills officer. So, what we do is we have member organizations that are part of our organizations, that are member to our organizations, other youth organizations. So what we're trying to do right now, which is our top goal, is to make a sustainable handbook for these organizations. So like, let's say you one day, one like an individual, a student, someone early, like, teenager, early 20s, thinks one day that, not even early 20s, early 40s, early 50s, like whenever you think about like, yes, I really want to change the world, or I really want to talk about climate, or I just want to change the world in any way possible. So we're making a sustainable handbook for these organizations, so then they can spread the message about how you and I and everyone else that dreams about being a development worker, or that dreams about making the world a better place through sustainability, environmental change, social, economic change, they have like a start and an end point. And I feel like maybe the end point isn't as important, but a start point is very important. And the reason I wanted to do this, because obviously environment and sustainability and development are not things that we really talk about in the global south, and these are mostly things and phrases that are heard in the global north. So let's say if I was to ask maybe perhaps people in the global south what sustainability is, maybe that's not something that's their first priority, because they have other issues that are way more important that they need to think about. So I was like, I really want to join this organization, so one day I can make a sustainable handbook for people like us from the global south, that don't really have that don't really learn about sustainability and the environment growing up. And that's, like, when I came to the UK, I didn't know how to reuse, recycle, and reduced. That's something I learned there. So I think it's just things like that where it's like if you do want to become a development worker, or if you do want to work in the environment, it's to raise enough awareness so even people in Pakistan have better access to like education programs, because right now a lot of the universities don't really teach anything about climate development, and these are not subjects that are widely accepted, especially in Pakistan right now. So I think it's just the reason why I wanted to do this was to learn enough so I can perhaps develop a handbook and raise enough awareness for people like us and people like me that want to advance our career in Pakistan, but we just don't have access to so many resources. So that's the work I'm doing with Generation Climate Europe. And then the Chatham House, I was the Chatham House delegate for Brazil. So this was a climate stimulation, which basically means that we kind of acted like this was like a COP29 or a COP30, which is like the climate conferences that take place in like a different country every year. So the COP30 is going to take place in Brazil, and they basically talk about how we can perhaps make the world a better place with, the climate crises being such a big thing, and agreeing on more climate what's it called, like climate laws and regulations and things like that. So we basically enacted a COP29, and it was very powerful because you learn how to speak in front of people that have so much knowledge about what you're about to say, and also to propose and bring people together, because the main goal of a COP is to agree. And so it's not really about just saying, like, you are like to a country that like you aren't doing enough or I'm doing more than you, but it's more about bridging the gap between all those countries, because each country has their own initiatives, their own things that they need to think about, but perhaps agreeing in a way that can make everyone happy, which is hard and we weren't able to do. But that's basically in an ideal world what a climate conference is supposed to do. And because I want to work in sustainability and I'm very passionate about COPs and COP29, COP30, like I know what goes on in each one. From like COP20, I've been following the climate conferences. And this is like a UN initiative. So I think it was very powerful to just be in their place. Obviously, it's not real, like in a way it is. And how we did it was people from different universities that came, and it's very powerful to see how the way I initiated or negotiated things was so different to someone else. And it just really helps you with public speaking and speaking to a diverse range of people. And just like, because people would um, fire back and things like that. So it's very interesting to see, like, maybe I'm not always right, or this is how I could perhaps do things. So it's really nice like that to learn more about what I'm passionate about, which was climate and the environment, but also to develop skills like public talking and talking to other people, negotiating, teamwork, communication, and just talking to new people that I've literally never known before, and creating a pact with them, or yeah, just things like that. And it's very relaxed and it's very nice, but it was the way a real one is formed, and so it's very nice to see that, like, yes, I really want to do this in the future, and how things actually are. So it's really nice conference. It was just a day long. So I feel like I would urge everyone that really wants to work in the development sector, international relations, public policy, that it's very important that we all develop our public speaking skills, because I was very shy at first when I first came to uni. But it's just really about pushing yourself out there, getting out of your comfort zone, and doing all these things to make yourself better, because sometimes in life you're not going to get the job or the internship that you dreamed about, but it's about getting anything that will help you develop the skills for that future job, I would say.
Thank you so much. You're about to pursue your master's in international development and humanitarian emergencies at
Yeah.
LSE. What specifically are you hoping to gain from this program, and how do you see it furthering your mission to create a more just world?
I think the reason why I chose LSE for international development and humanitarian emergencies was because they have this consultancy project where it's like a few weeks long and you work with an organization like the UN or like Red Cross, like a big international development organization, and you form like policies for them in a team. And I think that's very powerful to do um, in your early journey in development or international relations or whatever, because it really makes you kind of see how perhaps if you want to work for this organization later on, which I really want to work for an international development organization, to see how they want you to work, how they want you to write. It really helps you develop your writing skills, your talking skills, your negotiating skill, also team working skills. And so this is basically why I chose LSE. Another thing that's very big at LSE is networking, because especially at masters in all universities, most people are already kind of established or have done one or two jobs before they pursue their masters. So it's very powerful to get in touch with those people, talk to those people, um, and just get to know what mission they are on, and perhaps maybe you want to join with them, or maybe you want to create something similar in your part of the world. So that's basically why I chose LSE. And also, I really like the modules. So the subjects that they're going to teach was because I'm very interested about learning about emerging donors like China and Russia, um, as well as not forgetting about traditional donors like the West and how the West interacts with, because now in the world, like back in the world, we just had the West, but now we have China, Russia, and so many other countries giving aid. So it's like, how do they all like squeeze their space into the aid world, which is something that LSE offers and teaches, and I think that's very, very powerful. And just in terms of why I chose humanitarian emergencies is because I do want to work in a, like, I really like working in a stressful environment. So I really want to go to countries and regions that are highly affected and help them out, because obviously I escaped from war, and I wasn't displaced, but like I did escape from war, and I guess like to a very great extent I can kind of understand that. So I think it's very, very important that people that have gone through the same things are actually in the field, because you can really understand other people's emotions. And it's in international development, the key thing is to connect with the people that you're going to be providing for, or the people that you're supposed to make something better for them. Like perhaps, if they don't have water, like give them water, but you need to understand what they want as well, more than what the donor or what the organization that has put you into the country wants, because at the end of the day it's about the people on the ground and not about the donors or people that are putting money into the country. Obviously it's important because they're giving the money, but at the end of the day it's more about what the people on the ground want. And I think with humanitarian emergencies, I will learn how to work in a stressful environment, and how to care for people and connect with people so quickly that they're able to tell me what their problem is and how I can perhaps help them out. And just in the future, I guess, because I want to work like, in a stressful, not stressful, but just in a highly conflicted or highly just like an environment that a lot of people perhaps do not want to help out because it's scary or because it's unsafe, and I want to go there and help those people out.
Wow, that's really
Yeah.
ambitious. Very amazing one. Speaking of climate justice, you've mentioned your interest in initiatives grounded in Pakistani or the borders global south context. What unique perspective of the challenges do you believe need more attention when addressing climate change and development in these regions?
I think obviously, with Africa and with these global south countries, a lot of people just pair them together, like, that's Africa, that's the global south. But I think learning and studying international development, I realized, like, each country's context is so different. So to be honest, some of the countries in the global south that I have visited and that I can talk about, like I've stayed in Pakistan and I've stayed in Sudan. So I think some of the most important ways that we can lead the youth and lead the people of these countries towards sustainability and the climate is perhaps educating them. So putting that into education in early ages. So at this at school level, and telling them like, if the world goes on the way it is, we're literally gonna have nothing left, like no resources, no electricity, no oil, no nothing. And how are we gonna survive without it? And it's really about, because our generation, and I feel like the generations above my generation just think like, by the time it all starts going bad, we're gonna be dead. But it's really important about, what is going to happen after we're dead. Like that's something that we all need to start thinking about, in terms of stop being as selfish as we are, and just thinking about ourselves and our needs right now, and think about tomorrow's generation as well. Which I think in the global south, like, because people are not as self-driven, it's more about, like, family is very important part, community, especially in Africa, is a very important part. So people actually think about what's tomorrow. So I think it shouldn't be very hard to get students and to get schools to talk about sustainability and the climate emergency that we have in Pakistan or in Sudan or in any other country, because it's just about teaching and educating from the start. So, when a kid is like 8 or 9 or 10, they know how to reuse, reduce, recycle. Because when I was in the UK, I was like, no one's looking at us like, why do we have to do this? And it's like, because students there have been taught about the climate emergency and the sustainability from such a young age, it comes to them so naturally that they don't even have to think about like reducing, reusing, or recycling. Another thing is just to raise awareness about it, like overall. So, like, have like right now in Pakistan, like most of the time we just have one bin. We don't have two separate bins that says like paper, plastic, and just all recycling. And I think, it's like when you start seeing things around you, that's when you realize, like, this is maybe something that I also just want to do. And then these are just the first baby steps to just know about, raising awareness is one of the most key things. Because I understand in the global south, like, economic inequality and income and things are obviously more important, and people think about like financial insecurity more than they do about like the climate or the environment. But it's just important to note that these are very important as well, and we can think about everything together. Like, it doesn't have to just be about one thing or the other. And I think another thing is for people to realize that if we're sustainable or more conscious about the climate, financially we can all be doing better as well. Like, with a lot of people putting solar in their houses, like that is so sustainable and good for the environment, and it cut like electricity costs as well. So it's just things like that, like, they can both simultaneously work together. But I think it's important to raise awareness about how they can work together, and market them in a way that, like, perhaps if you put a windmill, like, if you live in a suburb area or an area with a lot of space, you can put a windmill, and that can help like all of us together, with electricity bills going down, and just things like that. And I think, more than anything, it's just about raising awareness. And then step two can be more about, kind of looking at what you're buying and how sustainable it actually is. Because I'm Pakistani, and I know a lot of people in Pakistan, like, we can never think about cutting meat out or chicken out. But it's just about raising awareness about the fact, like, sometimes you can perhaps have a meal that doesn't have meat in it because it is not very sustainable in the long run. So I think number one is just to raise awareness, and raise awareness on all platforms. So, like, obviously social media, schools, just like public figures should come into this as well. And just like public arenas being filled with the first steps of sustainability, which is obviously maybe more bins and just signs perhaps, um and even brands. Like, I've seen some brands in Pakistan starting to become sustainable. So I think it's just things like that, which perhaps in the next decade or two will push people to buy and consume more sustainability if we start raising awareness about it today.
Thank you. Fatma, you've effectively used social media to amplify outreach and impact. In today's digital age, how do you see the role of platforms like Instagram and LinkedIn in driving youth led challenge and advocacy on critical social and environmental issues?
I think we see a lot of people just talking about the environment and just talking about climate, and there are specific figures in each country that are mostly on high positions. But I think more than anything, it's important for like the youth, so people in their early 20s, people, teenagers, and even younger, because I know a lot of people nowadays are on Instagram or on TikTok. And more than anything, it's about thinking about what you really consume. So because of TikTok, a lot of people are just buying everything they see because it's trendy and unconsciously just consuming everything, not because they need it, but just because they want to be trendy as well. And I think it's about really thinking like we should all start to learn how to be more minimalistic, to stop just buying every trend we see and everything we see on TikTok just because it's cool, and not thinking about how it affects the environment. So I think it's important that people, because a lot of people on TikTok, like there are obviously people that do certain things, and one thing I've seen is Instagram less, but TikTok more. I feel like TikTok is just become so powerful recently to raise awareness and things, that like they show what like doing hauls and stuff, which honestly everyone loves to watch and I really love to watch as well. But it's like about maybe reminding the viewer that, like, I bought this because I really needed this, but we don't all need to buy everything that I bought, kind of thing. And even on Instagram and on TikTok, a lot of bloggers and celebrities and influencers, they have like links of what they bought in their bio, so it makes it very easy that, like, if I want the same thing, I could just do one click and just buy it. And it's about making things more harder for people, so it's because we as a society have become so lazy that, like, if we see it, we're just gonna, and it's so easy to just purchase, we're gonna purchase it. But it's about like kind of informing people and reminding people that everything you see on TikTok is not things that you just need to automatically buy. And even religiously, it's about just buying basics and buying things that are important, and not just buying everything you see, you know. So I think it's just really about getting the youth and getting people that consume clothes and things a lot, people that are involved in trends, to remind people like it's cool to be minimalistic. We don't have to be buying everything to be cool. And I think that that would really change things, because yes, we have the people that are already talking about the climate and the environment, and it's all very important. And I see that more on LinkedIn than I do on TikTok and Instagram. So obviously it's very important, because LinkedIn is a platform that people come in onto later in their age, like perhaps when they're in university or maybe when they're finding a job. And it's important to educate the youth as well. So it would be really impactful to see maybe hashtags or just specific videos like reminding people, or just talking about how, like, why you should consume this brand because it's so sustainable. And just, I guess, making content and moving our content to that, because when we look at the Western world, like, obviously they have a lot of consumerism as well, but we do occasionally see that there are certain people that are only consuming like sustainable brands and things like that. So it'd be very, very powerful and very important to see our Pakistani audience also move towards just sustainability and things that would make the environment great. So I think it's very important for these things to come on like the Instagram and the TikTok for you pages in Pakistan, and even on Twitter, I guess. Because yes, I see it on LinkedIn and I see people that are so active and studying about development and the environment in Pakistan, and they're doing great. But I think it's also important to for these concepts to come on casual platforms like TikTok and Instagram and even Snapchat. Um, and the whole thing with Chat GPT as well, it's like, yes, it's a great platform and it really helps you learn, and it can help you be more concise and so many other wonderful things. but at the end of the day, it's about like it wastes a lot of electricity, and it's not as good for the environment as we perhaps thought it was. Like one very very simplistic and easy thing that we all think about is, when someone goes to print a piece of paper, we're like, don't print it out, it's going to be bad for the environment, but taking a picture of it from our phone is also bad for the environment. So I think it's really about just having a guide and having people publicize and having people raise awareness about what is actually sustainable. Because right now, and maybe 5 years from today, 10 years from today, we all thought that like printing anything out is so unsustainable, and everything on the laptop is so sustainable and so good for the environment. But recently we've learned that it's not as good for the environment as we thought. So it's about debunking these myths, and creating a space with answers, because a lot of things with sustainability and the environment are very uncertain. And for people to follow and actually learn about something, it's about the fact that there should be facts, and just to put those facts out there and have normal people that create normal content talk about these facts. I think that would be revolutionary, and that would really help, not only the global south but also the global north.
Thank you, Fatma. You take me to the nerves. I mean, you're so insightful. Fatma, as an international student, you've navigated a new country, culture, and academic system. What was most challenging aspect of this journey, and what advice would you offer to the international student aspiring to make a global impact?
I think one thing about in general about being an international student is, because we're students and we're so young, we can adapt to a country's context and a country's place so quickly. And I think more than anything is, sometimes we think like we don't want to be friends with maybe people from our country or people from countries that we've already been friends with, because we want to learn about new cultures, we want to be friends with more people. And in that, you kind of forget about your culture and you forget about your identity, because you might think that it takes a very long time for someone to forget who they are. But because we're so young and we're still forming our identity and our culture and what we are, it can happen so quickly that you don't even realize it. So I think it's very, as an international student, it's very very important to find your people, to find people like you, because sometimes in the chaos, in the studying, in the joining societies, in the pressure of getting a job, in the pressure of so many things, you sometimes forget like, who am I? Like, it's like the simplest thing, like, what is my favorite color? And it's like you don't even know anymore. So it's really about just knowing who you are and sticking to it, more than anything, sticking to your values. So whether you're religious, whether there's anything that you're like, this is a boundary that I do not want to cross, it's very important to make sure that you do not cross that boundary. Sometimes, I guess, sometimes some boundaries that you might think that you didn't want to cross, you cross, and it's an amazing time, and you have an amazing time, and you're a better person. But sometimes if you think that there are some boundaries that are negative boundaries and things that perhaps you would not be proud of yourself, I think that's when you should really think about drawing the line. And it's really important to think about these things, because sometimes they come in front of your eyes, and because you haven't really thought about, like, this is right for me and this is wrong for me, you sometimes do it, and then you're like, I really regret this. And everything you regret, you learn. But I guess sometimes it's very hard to come back to where you were when you engaged in something or indulged in something. So I think it's more than anything, I think it's important to have friends that are like you and that have boundaries and that have something that's similar to you. So it keeps reminding you of what you are and where you want to be. And I think more than anything, it's about joining societies and keeping contact with your parents as well, because some people, like I know, because of how pressurizing it is to study all the time with exams and just doing everything by yourself, like your groceries and s- just everything, you sometimes forget to talk to people that were once very very important in your life. Like your parents are still important in your life, but obviously now it's virtually with them. um
This is Fatima Madani, graduate from University of Birmingham, and she was with us. Probably there are some internet connection issues, so she's a proud graduate from the and, and she's back.
Hi.
Hi, welcome back.
I'm so sorry. I think
It's
my
okay. It's okay. None of your mistake. It's okay. Yeah, you
I
can
think
continue. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so I was just saying that it's very important to um keep on in contact with people that are like you and people that you want to be as well, like your idols as well. Keep in contact with them so you know that you're still on the right route. Um and I think it's very important at the same time to still try new things out, be friends with new people, and get to know the culture, get to know the place, but still stick to your identity. And I think that's the most important lesson that I've learned more than anything. Um, yeah, because money comes back, time comes back, but your identity and who you want to be is sometimes very hard to get back. And so I think that's one thing that I would really say, that don't lose your identity, and really set your boundaries from the beginning, because once you know your boundaries you can educate people about, like, this is something that I'm okay with and this is something that I'm perhaps not okay with. So yeah, I mean, that's the life of an international student. Budgeting is very hard as well. Converting your currency into another country's currency is very, very hard and difficult at first. But I guess you do get the gist of it. You adapt to it because we're so young. It's so easy to adapt to everything. And I think it's very important to set a budget. So obviously first month that you get there, you have to buy so many things and you don't know where to shop and things like that. But I guess after the first month you should be like, this is perhaps like how much I can live in. um because you should have more money for like activities like going out with your friends, and it shouldn't just be spent on daily life and things like that. um and yeah, just keep in contact with people that are very important in your life but are now moved virtually, so like your parents and your friends in school and things, because it's very important to kind of be with people that are very close to your heart, and you get very, very lonely, so it's very important to talk to people. And then just in terms of education, because people, especially people in the global south, like, we're not very used to doing our groceries and cleaning up after ourselves, making our bed and things like that. So it sometimes gets very tiring because you have to do everything you can think about by yourself. And it's very important to leave time to kind of reflect and rest and feel good, and you shouldn't just be working all the time. And I know a lot of international students that come in, that go internationally to study. They do want to get a job, and it's very important to get a job sometimes to manage your expenses and for experience as well. But don't overwork yourself because you're honestly so young and you should be enjoying yourself. Like, yes, money is very important, and you don't want to be a burden on your parents, but it's important to have maybe the weekend off or things don't overwork yourself, because in the long run these 3 years or 4 years will pass so quickly, and you'd be like, I didn't even go out once with my friends, or I wish I didn't work that day because there was a big celebration that was happening. So yeah, I would say take it slow, because we're all still learning, and at the end of the day, you're only 18 or 19 when you go out internationally. So you will learn everything. You will get that internship. You will get that job. You will get the grades, but just have fun is what I would say.
Yeah, to me, I mean, you mentally you are 100 years old. You're so witty, and you've got so wisdom. But I mean, you just missed the last part of the question. Is what advice would you offer to other international students aspiring to make a global impact?
I think what's really important in making global impact is don't forget about where you've come from, especially if you're a student in the global south, because a lot of the problems that we talk about, we've physically seen these problems. Like, we've seen people that don't have access to water, we've seen people that don't have access to healthcare. So these are things that are not foreign to us. So it's really important to think about because because we're sometimes so used to seeing beggars and seeing people that don't have access to so many things. Sometimes we forget about, like,
maybe we can help them out and just think like, this is their life, and God makes some people rich and some people poor. But this is not the end of what we're inspiring or aspiring to do. We do want to make that change. And I think with making a global impact, it's important to think about problems, especially that are close to you, because a global impact can be anything. It can be the most smallest thing, like, getting blankets for kids in the winter that don't have blankets. And it's very important that you start from a problem that's very close to you and that's not very far away, because in the beginning, it's just very important to learn about what steps to take, because in every global impact that you do aspire to do, the steps they're almost the same. So, you first go to the people on the ground and ask them what their problem is, then perhaps get a donor. Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes there's a donor, and then, they will tell you what to do with, the money that they put into the country. So it's just really about um, pathing your own way, because once you work with an international organization, they will tell you that this is what you're supposed to do, this is what you're not supposed to do. But because you have so much say in how the aid or the blankets or the resources are given, it's important that in your mind you know that this is perhaps the impact that I want to give. This is what I want to do. Because most of the people that do make an impact and things is not from their own money, it's from someone else's money. And once you take someone else's money, there are things and conditions in place that they will put, and that's fine, because it is their money. But at the end of the day, it's about when you're going to go and sleep at home, you should sleep peacefully knowing that you did your best. So sometimes, because aid is so political, sometimes the aid that's put into the country is not benefiting the people on the ground. And if you're involved in that action, you might go home and think like, what did I do? Because I'm making their life worse than it already is. So it's about when a project is given to you, or when you in your own mind want to do something, it's about putting those conditions in your mind and saying, these are things that I will not budge on. Or, if that organization tells me that I have to do these things, I will tell them why I'm not going to. And work with the team as well, because obviously most of the time you're not going to be the only person. And it's about negotiating and educating that, if we don't do the specific thing that these people said, it will make their life better. And with making a global impact, it's about having very pure intentions, because a lot of the time you're not making a lot of money. Very, I mean, yes, you're not going to make a lot of money. So if you do want money, there are so many other fields and careers, even in development, that you can go into. But it's really about knowing your intentions. So is it about helping people, or is it something else? And setting those boundaries and setting those conditions, and only um, working with, or even if, like, let's say you work with someone that you don't really agree with, budging them to do better, because that's what impact is. Being an impactful leader is, sometimes you don't get your way, but it's about trying your best, and trying to make the world a better place, and making sure that your actions make you proud at the end of the day.
Really, thank you so much, Fatma. In fact, this impact portion of the whole talk is
Yeah.
core of what I do and what I aspire for. And this is one of the core reason that I reach you, looking at your academic and your aspiration and your thinking and what are you doing is amazing. You are not only impact deep, but what you are doing, your whole endeavor is to
Yeah.
reach the people, the devastated people, the broken one, the on the wreckage, and you want to reach them right then and there when you need you. So what you are doing is much beyond the impact, I would say. So that inspires so a lot about you. That one I reach you.
No,
Thank you so
thank
much.
you so much. Thank you so much, for even the work that you do with connecting people and bridging the gap between so many things is so important and so key. And you take your time out to do these podcasts with people from all around the world, which obviously isn't very easy to match times and match countries and match so many things. So I think it's amazing, and I hope to connect with you soon. Then,
Thank you so much. I mean, that's what I
thank you so
mean. You've been that Pakistan been born for like 75 5 years now.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've been thinking whole time
Yeah.
that I mean, we've been thinking somebody else gonna come and
Do
he'll
it.
do better thing and he'll put things up and right. And no, I mean, this is not the way. Then I
Yeah.
keep thinking, I mean, what can I do? What can I do? So this was the last thing that hit my mind. What I can do, despite the fact I'm not a person of impact, or I'm not like Elon Musk or some Jeff Bezos kind of stuff, or like, but what I can do, I can reach people like yourself, Fatma.
Yeah.
You're an amazing personality. I mean, in this age, nobody thinks of these big ideas. I
Yeah.
mean, you could think of the one when you grow older, you become
Yeah.
40 or maybe beyond that, then you become more mature. But I mean, in your age, nobody ever think of this. I mean, they could be thinking of some Hollywood movies or some new
Yeah.
dresses or something. I mean, can in new fashion or so. I mean, that's moves me. That's make me, you're a big huge fan. And I mean, really, it was very inspirational, because I keep hitting the people all around the globe. I mean, those people who are working for the impact. I mean, you're my heroine, honestly. I mean, you're the lady I really aspire. I mean, I would, if at all, I've got four Ginnies. I mean, they are boys, but I wish
Yeah.
I had daughter. I mean, it would be your like yours. If I mean, I'm so proud of you. So my next question is, the next one is, your work often intersects with issues of migration and humanitarian response. With the current global landscape, what are some of the most pressing challenges facing migrant communities, and what role do organizations like Europeans Welfare Association play in addressing them?
So with migration and just with how humanitarian the humanitarian world is right now, the humanitarian landscape, I would say day and day things are getting worse and things are getting harder. But at the same time, we have organizations like the Europeans Welfare Association making such an impactful difference because Europe, so it's called the EWA, European Welfare Association. And what they really help with is they will help you adapt to the country context. So this is mostly for Eastern European migrants, but also they cater to Pakistani migrants and other migrants and anyone that comes to them. So they kind of have a whole building that really helps you out with housing, that helps you out with moving in, that helps you out with what's it called, sending your kids to school. And they have a school there as well. They have their own schools because sometimes when people migrate illegally, they don't have access to healthcare. They do not have access to education. Their kids don't have access to so many things and themselves as well, like the welfare, because a lot of European countries are welfare countries, but if you're illegal, most of the time you do not have access to them. So they really help with you adapting to the country context and just like you being able to get every right and every necessity that you need. So we have organizations like that on one hand, and then we have organizations that are stopping migration and that are making it harder for people to migrate, which obviously, is understandable as well. But at the end of the day, it's about understanding that these migrants are not animals; they're humans as well, and it's about like once they have come into your country, I think it is about time that people are more lenient with them because sometimes the atrocities and things that we hear about migrants in certain countries, it's honestly so sad, and you kind of realize that like why are they treated like animals when they spent so much of their life savings to come into a country. And then we have people that actually help you with migration, and those companies are, I mean, I mean, I don't really know about those companies that help with migration because it's different for every country. But you see so many people die on their way to migrating to Greece or migrating to another country, and it's very sad to see that, like, you put in all your life savings and even your parents and all your family members. It's very disheartening for them to see that, like, you went to a country to so-called get a better life, and I mean, now you're no longer in the world. And obviously, things are written and some things are just supposed to happen the way they all do. But it's really about recognizing that migrants, and even the migration term in the media, the discourse that surrounds that term is very, very negative. Like in the UK, there's a big saying that migrants are taking our jobs, and I bet in Europe there are so many other sayings. And it's important to kind of recognize that if you're a child of a migrant, or if you migrated yourself, to know that you're valued, and you contribute to the country. Because if there was no migrants in Europe, like, who would do all the labor work, who would do all the Uber work? So it's about recognizing, like, yes, these people have come into the country, perhaps not legally, but they contribute to the country's context, and they contribute economically, they contribute socially, they contribute in so many ways. And I think that's things that are not discussed in the media. And it's very disheartening to see that, and see the terms that are often associated with migrants. um, and yeah, that's the work that the European Welfare Association does, where it really helps people come into the country and help them adapt. And just in terms of the humanitarian landscape, I know a lot of organizations that are actually helping people migrate in the most safest way possible. Because obviously, with migration, because the routes they take, you don't really know what tomorrow is going to hold. But there are a lot of scammers as well, and a lot of people lose their life savings and they're not even able to reach the country. But there are people that are perhaps more reliable, and are actually helping with migration and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's like, um, I guess people, me and somewhat, I mean, I can't really say that, like, migration has its pros and cons. But at the same time, it's just about, more than anything, recognizing that they're humans and they have rights as well, rather than just saying, you came to our country illegally, so you shouldn't have any rights. But recognizing what they've come from and the trauma, because with migration, it's not a very easy process, because these people don't come in a plane from their home country to the other country. They often come in buses, they come in boats, they come in very, very harsh conditions. And recognizing their trauma, and the European Welfare Association recognizes their trauma, like those, like, people that work in that organization. And I also have to receive that training, where they train to talk to migrants, because obviously they have so much trauma and they're traumatized. So you can't just talk to them like you talk to a person with no trauma. So it's just, and I bet there's so many more organizations in the UK and in Europe as well, that are working on the same mission, where they kind of, really help migrants settle in and recognize them and recognize their needs and recognize their trauma, which I think is very, very important in the humanitarian world, and obviously in the migration world as well.
Thank you so much. This is really heart touching. Looking ahead, what are some of the biggest aspirations and goals? What kind of long term impact do you hope to make in the field of international development, sustainability, and social justice?
I think for me personally, I just want to raise more awareness about sustainability and the environment, because I feel like people don't know what sustainability is. Even when I was in Birmingham, we did a lot of focus groups and a lot of surveys about, what do you think about when you think about sustainability. A lot of people didn't know what sustainability was. Another thing, a lot of people don't know that sustainability has three pillars. So it's economic sustainability and social sustainability. When people think about sustainability, they just mostly think about the environment, when it's not just the environment. It's so many more. It's very interdisciplinary to say, but people don't recognize how interdisciplinary it actually is, and just think it's just the environment and it's about reusing, reducing, and recycling, and that's it. But it's so much more into making people learn about it, because if you don't learn about it, then how can you implement it and um, go on about it? Because in a lot of leading brands in the world today, you see we've become sustainable, or we're so sustainable. But when sustainable researchers actually research how sustainable the brand is, or certain aspects, and they realize that no, it's not actually sustainable. So it's about raising awareness about sustainability, but raising awareness about how a lot of sustainability, because it's uncertain, people think they can just say whatever and people are just going to believe it. Because when on a box it says 25% less fat, and we all just believe it, but we don't actually know if it's 25% less fat. And it's really about not only raising awareness about the environment and sustainability, especially in global south contexts, but making people realize that a lot of what you read is basically a lie. And with research in sustainability and social justice, this is what I've realized with a lot of countries and a lot of um, big organizations say, like, this is the impact that we make, and you realize, like, no, this is not the impact that you make. And when on a biscuit or like on a chips packet we see this is so healthy, or this is 0% fat, 0% 0 calories. Sometimes it doesn't make sense at all. And it's really about questioning everything you see, because if we don't question it and we just read it and eat it, the world is not going to become a better place. So it's really about raising awareness, but also making people question, like, how real and how impactful what they're saying. Like, is it even true? And I think another thing I want to really, really bring awareness to and really help change is donor and aid receiver, so aid provider and aid receiver relations, which is very important and close to my heart, because I've learned a lot about how sometimes, because donors give the money, they have the upper hand in aid, and sometimes people on the ground are not listened to. So it's really, and these things, when you see on paper, on our handbooks, or like in a journal, they're often not very transparent about what the dealing was, what the conditions were, how were people impacted. It was just like, this country gave this country aid and this is how it helped. But what is the evidence that it actually helped? And what are the side effects? Because there's always side effects that people don't talk about. So it's about, more than anything, about making the aid world more transparent. Like, I really, really hope to do this, where we actually um, get these donors and these aid providers and aid initiators and people in between to talk about what really happened. Because we see it in a piece of a journal, or we see it maybe some quotes, but it's like, it's talking about it and hearing people's perspectives is so much different to it being written down. So having more modes of how the development world is talked about, because if we have people from the ground actually say, not in a what's it called, in a documented or scheduled a video or recording, but have it very like casual, and just have organizations go in and ask people, like, did this really help you or not? And I think that would just help us really know about what worked and what didn't work. Because a lot of the times with the aid world, people just use steps and methods that have worked for another country, but every country is different. And to recognize that is very, very important. So I think for me, one of the changes I really want to make is just make any part of the aid world more transparent, to raise more awareness. People recognize what the environment and sustainability is, because a lot of people don't know. And I think more than anything, to get um, more transparency, but also to get more insight about how donor aid exchange happens, and how it impacts other countries as well. Because sometimes we think, this country didn't give aid to us, so how does it impact us? But sometimes aid that's given to another country impacts countries way, like, across the world, and you don't even realize it. So really knowing about making things so transparent that people that don't know anything about international relations and international development recognize that, like, this is what aid is, this is what it means when your country receives aid, and this is what the elites in your country agreed to when they were like, yes, we will accept the aid, or we really want the aid. So I think it's just very important to make it so transparent and so clear that people that are not engaged with the subject still recognize what's happening. Because what's happening affects every single person. It's not just the aid that's given to that certain region. It affects the whole country, and sometimes even countries across the world or neighboring countries.
Great. I mean, very, very rightly said. There is no free lunch in. I mean, if someone is given something, they expect something
Yeah.
in word too. Okay. I mean, my last but not the least question, because then we'll be open for the informal discussion after
Yeah.
this question. for my audience or abundance audience who are inspired by your journey and wants to get involved in youth-led challenge or advocacy, what one piece of practical advice or first step you would recommend they take?
I would say the most easiest step is to do your undergrad or your master's in a subject like international relations or public policy or international development. But sometimes if it's not available, you can still subject study any other subject that you're passionate about and still partner with an organization or go volunteer perhaps like at an old age home or perhaps at an orphanage, and that really gives you insight into what change you can make. And then slowly down the line, when you experience and have so much interactions with different stakeholders like orphans and donors and just different stakeholders overall, you can actually apply to work in organizations that actually pay you or that help you do research. So like apply to the UN, apply to even organizations in Pakistan as well, um, and just organizations that are catering to your needs and catering to what you want to do. Because more than anything, it's not about forcing the global change. It's about actually being so passionate that you want to engage in this. Like when I was doing my research opportunity with trying to make education more sustainable, I would not sleep at nights because I was so passionate. And it's really about being that type of passionate, because sometimes there is no clear direction with change, especially there is no clear direction. No one's going to tell you that this is the next step you have to take. This is something that you should already know, or this is something that you have an idea about at least. So it's really about getting that experience early on by volunteering, because most of the time, even if you've studied international development or international relations, no one's ready to give you insight into the aid world and the humanitarian landscape, just because it requires more than just theory. Like it actually requires experience and working with people. um, and then sometimes when you can't even get experience in like orphanages or um, organizations like that, um, what you can do is work in a job or in an internship or volunteer work as well, with anything that helps you gain public speaking skills, that helps you develop your teamwork skills, that perhaps helps you communicate better, negotiate better. Just skills that you could just go and search this up, like skills that are required for the aid world or the developing world. And if you don't have the opportunities to engage with NGOs or like NGOs or public sector work, you can just do any work that helps you develop the skills that you need for your dream job or your dream internship. So I think that's, to be very, very basic, I would say that's the first steps you should take.
Thank you so much, Fatma, for your time. And you said insightful stuff. I mean, thank you so much for bringing the knowledge from the first world to my part. I mean, since
Yeah,
I mean, I take as we are the global citizen now, the resident of Pakistan. And but
yeah,
again, I mean, the word impact that you talk about, and especially social, the sustainability, your work, as you said, when you were having some surveys and you work in Birmingham, I mean, they probably behave equally as we do. Uh,
exactly.
and I mean, then you talk of something very basic that we have still not learned how to dispose of our waste. Even we're throwing everything in one bin. So
Yeah,
even the most concerned about what you were about. There's no lunch is a free lunch. I mean, the countries who are the donors, they do expect in return something, and that something is your sovereignty at
yeah,
the minimum level.
yeah,
And in my childhood, since I've been very friendly to the foreigners, and since I was a child, there was a person from Andrew Rose from Canada, in a walk in F9 Islamabad Park. We were working together, and he said, and he was a person in UN, and he asked me a question. He asked me, what did he ask? It was like 2000, 2004 or two. It was 1998. Then we were together there in Islamabad. Definitely. He asked me, "What do you think? I mean, flow of fund. Is it from the donor to the donee, or the otherwise? Is it from the countries who are getting you money, or the one who are returning?" I said, surely I'm the one who's donator is the one who's donating money. The money is flowing from their end, higher end to the lower end. He said, no. Look at the balance of payments. Look at your debt servicing. Look at your you things. Look at the money going out of the borders from out
Exactly.
of Pakistan. Be it pilferage, be it some smuggling kind of stuff, or in legal or illegal money laundering or whatever, the flow of fund is out of your country. And it was like 1998. It's like, I mean, it's like decades, right? We are talking now, and we are into debts. I mean, the dollar was rupee 1 when we were 1 year in 1998, 1948. And now, I mean, look at the dollars. I mean, manifold. And why? I mean, they are only printing money. So there are a lot of things we need. Sovereignty
Exactly.
first.
Yeah.
Fatma, if wherever you are, your belief pattern, your values
Yeah.
first. Whenever, despite the fact wherever you are, nobody is guiding you,
Exactly.
nobody is looking at you, and you're all alone. That's what your values come in.
Yeah.
That's where your belief pattern comes in. So, I mean, when we are asking for money, what we are sacrificing at the minimum is sovereignty.
Mm.
Then we be ready that any orders coming from the donors end, we don't have to say
Exactly.
no to them. We can't. And frankly, I do not find any reason that why the hell we are asking for that of lot of money when it is not going to the grassroots
Exactly.
level, when it's going to some fund some accounts in Switzerland or some other. I mean, very sorry to say, despite the fact that I do not have the real the first-hand information. But again, I mean, more we are getting funds from other countries. I mean, deeper and deeper we are going into
Yeah.
the
Exactly.
problems. I mean, and let's. I mean, in Chairman Mao Zedong in 1960. It was 1961 when Qudratullah Shahab, the writer
Yeah.
of Shahabnama, and one of the widely respected. He was ICS, Indian Civil Services officer, and we were blessed with that soul. And he was the one, the principal secretary, and one of the
Exactly.
noblest person we've had. And he asked for some advice, as I asked for some advice from my audience, that what they got to do. And you were very gracious, I mean, in extending your advice. And he was asked similar, sir, advice to the Pakistani nation. He said, go back to your country and close your
Yeah.
borders. Do not ask for any money. And it was 1961, and it was we were having the similar relations with our neighbors, right, as we have now. And there was a fear of war of nine that actually happened in 1965 later on. But he said, I know everything. Go back and close your borders. Do not ask for any penny from any country. Grow
Yeah.
your own economy. I mean, just get your head down, work, and work, as Muhammad Ali Jinnah himself said, and the father of the nation. And he said, do that. But we don't follow. We don't look what's gonna happen. And Fatma, really, I really thank you so much. Honestly, I have no words to thank you, and I cannot thank you enough for your time. And I want you to be the part of global. I
Of
have
course.
just want this. Just I just want this is the platform that I feature the change makers like yourself, the
Yeah.
people of impact. You did not utter a word about finance, money. You are not that guy. You are a person of
Yeah.
impact, and that's you're much beyond that. You're gonna have hell of money, I believe so, because when you are into the impact, that it has to follow. Look at the ED Foundation or others, but they
Yeah.
are, despite the fact they've got millions of dollars and pounds and yens, everything, but they have got in their lockers, in their banks, in their accounts, but not in their hearts. And you're the
Exactly.
person having everything in your head, not in heart. That thank you so much. I mean, anything, and the lastly, I would really want you to be the part of the tribe of this global abundance organization.
Yeah,
And
of course.
what part would you like to play? Because you are going borders now, you are going
Yeah.
countries and abroad, and that's what I really look forward for a huge, big, very important role in being the
Yeah.
ambassador to the Global Abundance Organization, taking this to London School of Economics and to the
Yeah.
other countries and other, because that's the global hub. You're gonna go there. You're gonna have the people and students all across the world there. So I want this to go beyond borders, to go beyond I mean, it's got to be the global one since it's
Yeah.
global. So
Of course.
my last is a request. It's not a question. Say, I
No,
mean,
of course.
be
Yeah.
part of the team and choose your own role, because you're a
Yeah.
person of impact. You can do it better in your own capacity. What role really you would aspire for?
I think just to kind of give in students and people that do want to make any change possible, to kind of give them guidance, because sometimes we have something in mind that we want to change, but it's like, how do we start? And I think because I've worked with non-governmental organizations and worked with fundraising and budgeting and things like that, I kind of can guide them on the first steps they can take. And we can form like perhaps like a guide or a handbook about a youth leader in Pakistan, and how you can go from point A to point B, and the resources that you have and the people that you can turn to if you do need help. And I think that would be very important to create that handbook. But obviously, before that handbook, it's important to interact with people and to get to know what people think and how people are coming, and from their perspectives and their journey, make a handbook. And I think that would be very, very beneficial to a lot of people.
Thank you so much, Fatima. And I mean, pinch out some time and go through my media wall. I have got
Of course. Yeah.
uh, since you've got little time, no, you don't have a lot
Yeah.
of time. I know. I really request you to go through my media wall. You would find the people from the globe, especially from Silicon
Exactly.
Valley. I am really
Yeah.
focusing on US and especially Silicon Valley itself, just because that's a tech hub, and there are change makers a lot. I mean, you would find
Of course.
in one bucket, you'd find everybody, every person of
Yeah.
the impact, and I'm working real lot there. And now I have started. I mean, I've just faced towards Europe too. I mean, and
Mm,
you are the first person from the Europe and from the Birmingham University. You
yeah.
qualified. So just because I see there, I mean, there are people of impact there too. So I
Exactly.
really want you to advise me how to create value out of these relationships that I have with the change makers globally.
Yeah. I think what's really important is, like, I know you've done like uh like live streams with different people all together, right? But I think it's really about having a goal, like perhaps make a handbook for youth leaders in Pakistan, or how to become a youth leader in Pakistan. And then maybe connect with your connections and ask them, like, how can you perhaps contribute to them, or how do you think we should format it, or because sometimes, like, because in the European and the Western context, it's really about not gatekeeping and spreading your knowledge, right? So I think they have a lot of insight on how we can make things more student friendly, and how we can um, spread knowledge, and how we can phrase things. But I think more than anything, it's first about learning about the Pakistani context, and that's something that it's better if Pakistani people do it. And then when it comes to kind of rephrasing, phrasing, and creating the overall handbook, and creating a space for youth leaders in Pakistan, then I think it would be amazing to get insight from everyone else.
Thank you so much. And your role in doing that, would you be cheering it? I mean, especially, I mean, my question about it starts with the time. This because the time
Yeah.
is the most important thing. How much time can you donate or like you can invest into global abundance organization, uh, and what role would you be playing? I mean, this is the open offer just because this organization is not too old, and we I have all it's all open, and this is open to those who can invest their
Of
time in.
course.
So
I think like right now we're just starting off, and so I think 2 hours, 2 hours like a week would two not 2 hours, but maybe 3 4 hours a week would be enough. But once we start actually thinking about a project and have a path, then I know I would be so invested that like I would want to do like 10, 12, 20 hours, like how many ever it demands. But it's just really about getting started and having a path that we know, like having a start goal and an end goal. And I think if anyone's passionate enough about a project, like they're going to be investing all their time. And that's honestly me. Like if I'm passionate, then I'm going to be investing all my time. But when it comes to planning and things, obviously we don't need a lot of time, because I think like we both and everyone else that's going to be partnering into this have a good idea of about where we want to go. And I think once we have everything down and we have all the resources, and just when it comes to just making the handbook or anything else that we think about, I will be investing all the time that I have. Yeah.
that's amazing. Okay, now what I want this to be useful for in your studies at LSE, it's
Yeah.
London School of Economics. So
Yeah.
how if you take it as a project, and I
Yeah. Yeah.
be your resource person for that, keeping you connected to the. Since I understand, I mean you're gonna get busy in 2 months, and you won't have that much of time then. But what I do, how about taking this your thesis, your project, or like I mean, you can, you know what? I have designed it on UN level, on
Yeah.
all pattern of UN, and this is people's UN. Like it's like general grassroots
Yeah.
people. Like myself, I mean, you're a person of impact. You're quite better than I am. So the people who and I have a lot of people in US and other people.
Yeah.
So I want them to speak just because the abundance is peace. In fact, I mean, if you
That,
talk of my heart, if you ask me what is abundance, abundance is creating the world of possibilities, and the
that's
peace first, peace, prosperity,
yeah.
coordination, cooperation, and the research in education and everything. And there is longevity going on. There is artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence, then coming at super intelligence, artificial super intelligence, everything. And impact is not only the mind deep, this is heart deep too. So this is what I'm doing on. So if you can take it as a project, and then we can generate, I mean, as you said, uh, the people from youth, because when you talk, your age group really listens to you with impact, and it matter more than what I do or somebody who's older than you is doing same. So what's your take on what I said?
I think that sounds wonderful. Like, if I do it as a project, obviously, I'll be more invested in it. Obviously, it's really about, like, knowing about the impact that you're making more than anything. Because, once you know that this is the impact you're making, obviously, everyone becomes so much more interested. But I think it's just important first to just do market research about what people in Pakistan want, because I want to definitely do this for people in Pakistan, because in the European context and in the Western context, there's still like there's so many amazing people doing so many amazing things. But I think in Pakistan, like we have limited people doing things like that. So I think it's important that we cater to the Pakistani context, and just do some market research about what people want and what people are looking for, and what is really missing in the market when it comes to impactful work and things like that. And then going up on about, like you said, I really agree with what you've put forward. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I mean, I have a lot of things to say, but I mean, it's already, I mean, it's 1.5 hour now.
Yeah.
And now I'll open the floor, I mean, for your questions. I mean, since
Yeah.
we've been in 1.5 hour, and there could be a lot of questions in your heart. I mean, I want you to be the host now, and I'm your guest. Ask questions.
Yeah, of course.
Do ask question. I mean, whatever you have in your mind, you can ask. You want to ask about the Global Abundance Organization, what it is, and why did I found it. You can ask questions if you want.
Yeah, like I think it would be really interesting because like I've seen your amazing work, but like, to start an organization is obviously not very easy. So it'd be really interesting to know like what you've yeah, why you started it and where you see to go with it, I guess.
Thank you so much, Fatma. Uh, I've got a lot to say about you, and as you're an inspiration to the young people, and just because it is really difficult. I mean, going across the border as a lady and having a lot of fears of future, but you're true. You've done it, and you're a person of impact, innovation, and inspiration. And the individual truly is shaping your own future through your own hands. And I really need to congratulate your parents, your mother and father, and your family, your support system. And I can see
Yeah.
a lot of greatness in them through you and your confidence and you being abroad and beyond the borders. And
Yeah.
especially I really need to speak a few words about your dressing too. It was inspirational, that made me talk to you too. And
Yeah.
with values, and I have high regard for what you wear and how you carry yourself. That's really amazing, and I really congratulate. Just because you've been to the part of world where you can do anything, but I
Yeah.
mean, you just follow your values and
Exactly.
your belief pattern, and I thank you so much for being Fatma.
Uh-huh. Thank you
See
so
you.
much. Have a good one. Thank you so much.